What's up, everybody? So today I want to talk to you about cases and returns. Whenever you have a case or return opened on eBay against you, you need to take care of it, in a timely manner. You need to get it resolved. You want to protect yourself. I mean, you don't want to just, there are going to be times, unfortunately, that there's some buyers that are just going to try to be dirtbags and try to, be petty and scam you. 9 times out of 10, it's over a small amount of money. Most items on eBay, anyways, you're going to be selling are usually in the $20 to $50 range. Some are more, 100 or a couple hundred, but seems like the usually the more annoying and petty people, the biggest complainers seems to be on the smaller items when there's really nothing wrong or something very little wrong, and then they just try to use that as an excuse to basically get the item from you for free. Seems like in most cases, but at any rate, I'm going to show you what exactly you need to look out for, what to do to protect yourself as a seller, and how to go about managing these cases and returns so that way your account stays in good standing. So with that, we're going to go over here. Just going to drop down to the account section. So scroll on down here. I'm going to go to my seller dashboard. Okay. This is actually a new account, but it's the same obviously dashboard. So whenever you have a new case or a return opened against you, it's going to be populated in here. The return section also, there's another section is just will only have the returns, but in this section, because whenever a return is opened, it is ultimately considered a case, but it's just a return request. There is a section specifically for return requests, but all of them, the return requests and the item not received cases, will all be displayed here when you filter through them. So basically, what you want to do is go ahead and 1 second here. What you want to do whenever you see a case in here, you want to address it in a timely manner. So when a buyer opens an item not received case against you, what you're going to want to do is obviously check the tracking information. If the tracking information shows that the item was delivered, then you need to just reconfirm basically in the case. It's going to ask you for the tracking number, even if the tracking number is already uploaded into the order from when the item shipped. Still just go ahead and paste it into the case and hit update tracking details or add tracking details. Once you do that, eBay will go ahead and investigate it, and once they confirm that it is has actually been successfully delivered, then they'll go ahead and close it in your favor. Now, you do need to be aware of Amazon tracking numbers. Like in a previous video, I mentioned eBay does not automatically track Amazon tracking numbers in their dashboard. So what I mean by that is, if you had a order that you drop shipped the product from Amazon and it's shipped to the customer with Amazon shipping, so it has a TBA 12-digit number, shipping number. If you just copy and paste that number into your case, eBay is not going to be able to track that like they would be able to track, say, a UPS or a FedEx or a USPS tracking number. So they're not going to be able to do anything with it. They're going to ask you for more information. So in that particular instance, what you're going to want to do is go to monitortrackings.com. And then here you're going to have your TBA number. So you'll just put in whatever it is, TBA 12-digit number, and then it's going to pop up with your tracking details here. And then you're going to just literally I do one of two things. Usually I'll just take either the URL, whatever the search result URL is, and just paste that directly and tell them, hey, look, here's confirmed that the item was delivered. Go to this URL and check. Or you can just send them. It takes a little longer, in my opinion, but same thing, tomato. You can just send them this link directly, or this URL rather, monitortrackings.com, and then send them along with that the TBA tracking number and then they'll go ahead and go to this site and then track it. And when they see it is delivered to the address on file, the zip code on file, they'll go ahead and close the case in your favor. Now, if the item legitimately got lost, like it, legitimately didn't show up, then what you're going to want to do, obviously, once it's brought to your attention, you're going to want to contact the supplier and get a resolution from them as quickly as possible. The time that a case is opened on eBay, you have 10 days to go ahead and take care of it. So if a case is opened against you, you check and you see that the item actually did get lost for whatever reason, just the tracking number just stops at a certain point, or was returned to sender, whatever it is, you need to basically at that point be the liaison between your buyer and the supplier. You're going to check with the supplier, see what exactly was the problem. If it was an address problem, you then need to relay that information back to the buyer, let them know, hey, your address was actually incorrect, couldn't be delivered as addressed, so for that reason it was returned back. Then obviously get the correct info, send it back to the supplier. Most times suppliers will just go ahead and send out a new replacement item. If not, in the worst case scenario, then you're just going to go ahead and if they can't ship it out and they just refund you, you're going to have to either find somewhere else to supply the product and send it to them, again for the second attempt, or if not, you're just going to refund the buyer and close the case. So the thing is with refunding buyers and closing cases, I mean, it doesn't go against you in any way, but obviously you're basically going to be you're gonna have to follow up with getting your refund and other other things. So I mean, it's preferable if you just get the item shipped to them again, get the item to them somehow, but if not, just go ahead and get your money back at the very least, and then close out the case and refund the buyer. Now, you want to make sure that you always manually initiate the closure of the case, because if you don't, if eBay automatically closes the case because you take too long after 10 days or whatever it is, you're going to get a notch or a strike against your account. So with your seller account, you have certain metrics that you have to maintain. One of them is with your defective case, defective transaction rate. I think it can't be anything more than 0.3%. So, needless to say, if you're a new seller and you get even one case, that's decided against you, meaning eBay had to force the refund, you didn't cooperate with the buyer, it can very quickly put your account into a bad position. So, this is the case section. And forgive me, but it seems like because I haven't actually yet sold anything on this specific store, there's certain things like the return section and such. I might have to just log into my other account. Alright, give me one quick second here. Alright guys, back with you. So I'm in my other account here. Now I'm gonna show you some cases here. Alright, so this is, well, not to jump too far ahead, this is the return section. Actually, as I was mentioning in the last video, there is a section specifically just for returns, where it's only going to show returns. It won't show item not received cases. So this is that section. You manage your returns. Obviously these are the different returns that you would have going on. This one's closed, but basically each return, and this one actually was decided in the buyer's favor because of the fact that this buyer was just really, I don't want to get into it, but at any rate, this one I should have ultimately just refunded them. I was trying to get the matter resolved for them, and I thought we had an understanding of how we were going to proceed, but it turns out the buyer had other plans. So at any rate, it was $29, like I was saying in the beginning of the video. It's most of the time it's very small, petty, ticky-tack shit, but not to get off track here. For any case, a return that you might have, this is what's going to be the situation. You're going to have, your full case history here. You see here, buyer requested return. The buyer was saying that there was missing pieces from the domino set. I approved the return. I provided a RMA, and the buyer shipped me back a box with nothing in it. But whatever. Anyways, these things happen sometimes. Not to digress, but I in a situation like that, it's few and far between. But when a situation like that happens, to be honest, as a seller, there's really not too much you can do. You can. I filed an affidavit with eBay, claiming that wasn't the case, and they were going to follow up with it. But to be honest, I forgot about it. I mean, it's $30. I have a lot of other stuff going on to be just focused on $30. It's more about the principle of the thing than anything. But at any rate. That is basically what you're going to have when you have a return of any kind. You're going to have, basically a return ID, and then within that return ID, you're going to have the full case history of whatever is going on. And then as you can see here, I think because that other account I haven't actually listed anything yet. I think some of the options are a little bit reduced here in the dashboard, but as you can see here, there's your returns and your cases. Okay, so you see here, you're gonna have, also if you want to cancel a transaction, I think these different, we can see here, canceling the transaction. I believe this one was in Puerto Rico, and this item couldn't be shipped to Puerto Rico, so I canceled the order. But at any rate, if you are ever going to cancel an order, make sure that you state. I mean, you got to state the truth. You can't lie. If you're out of stock on the item and you don't have a way around it, you're gonna have to eat it and say that it was out of stock. But for that reason, to avoid things like that or shipping issues, I always list, as I explained in a previous video, about only shipping within the continental US and so forth. So in a situation like this, I can legitimately cancel it and say there was an issue with the buyer's shipping address and not get dinged on my metrics. So this is basically what you're going to be looking at. So anyways, all right. So, well, no, it does list return requests too. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, here it will list return requests as well. So, I mean, if you have an open return in here, open return request, you can access it through here or just through the return section. But it will display in here as well in your list of open cases or whatever you want to call it. So you have these two sections, that you're going to be working with and dealing with. So. Basically, if a buyer claims the item wasn't received, you need to protect yourself, but be helpful. Obviously, you don't want to just, be a dick. If the buyer is legitimately saying something hasn't arrived, and it hasn't actually arrived, you want to provide them with good quality service, so they want to continue doing business with you, and also make sure that they get what they pay for ultimately. Also you do need to be wary and protect yourself. If a buyer claims that the item wasn't received, but on the tracking number it shows that the item was delivered, you can't really get into a back and forth with the buyer. You just got to contact eBay directly through the case, provide them with the information so they can verify that it was in fact delivered to the address as shown, or the zip code as shown actually is how they operate, and from there they will decide the case in your favor and you move on. But if the item legitimately did not arrive, then you just need to go ahead and either get a replacement shipped out to them, or you need to refund them. But if you are going to refund them, you need to do so before the case automatically closes on you within, I believe it's 10 days after the opening date of the case. So make sure you do that, because if not, and then eBay has to force the refund, that is going to be a defective transaction on your account, which will negatively affect your account. Especially if you're new starting out, just one or two can really put you into some hot water. Now, the next thing about the return requests. So, certain items, when you're drop shipping, the general practice and procedure for dealing with returns is the buyer will open the return with you, and then you will open the return with the supplier. And, if everything works out the way it should be, the supplier would provide you with the return information, or the return label rather, return shipping label, and then you would just forward that return shipping label to your buyer, and then they will ship it back to your supplier, and you're basically removed from it. Now, the caveat in that is these days eBay a lot of times will automatically approve returns. Now, what does that mean, and why does it matter? When eBay automatically approves a return, automatically they will send the buyer a prepaid return label, but obviously the prepaid return label will not be to ship it back to Walmart or Amazon or Home Depot. It will be to ship the item back directly to you, to the address you have on file for your mailing address in your eBay account. Now, if it's a small item, like just an example, just process this logically. If you have a $20 item that you drop shipped, and after everything, fees, the whole 9 yards, you made even 15%, so you made $3 roughly. Profit is actually what you made. The buyer now, for whatever reason, even if it's a legitimate reason, it doesn't have to be that the buyer's being a dirtbag. They could just have a legitimate reason they want to return it, whatever. They open the return, and eBay automatically approves the return, which it does happen. To be honest with you, it happens probably about, these days, it seems like about 50% of the time or more. But they open the return request, and eBay automatically provides them with the label. That return label, even for a small item, usually is going to run you anywhere from like $3 to $5. Sometimes it's much more. I don't know where they get their shipping prices from, but again, not to digress. Now, if you only made $3 profit on the item, that was after everything, the product cost, the whole 9 yards, and you're getting charged now $5 or $8 for a return label, and then on top of that, it's not going to be returned back to the supplier, where then you're going to get your whatever, $20 back minus the shipping that you just paid to eBay and all that. No, you're going to now have the item in your possession at your house, and you got two options: either A, keep it, B, send it back to the supplier, or C, if it's something maybe you can use, you use it. If it's not legitimately, damaged or used, or something that's used, you can't, use a dirty pillowcase or something, obviously. But, basically, if that happens, you have two options, really you have three options. You can message the buyer and say, hey, don't take that return label. I have this other prepaid one. Can you ship here instead? That's a hit or miss. A buyer may respond to that and say, okay, sure, I will. They may or may not do it after that, or they just may not respond at all and just ship it, with the label you may provide them, and not even want to respond to your message. That happens quite a bit as well. So that one aside, you have two options. Either A, if it's, again, a small ticket item where you're not gonna really even get anything back by the time you get the item back, and paid $6 or $7, you're already, in the red, $5 or $6. So now if the product costs you $20, you're already down to $15. And then if you open a return with Amazon or Walmart, and let's say if the item isn't actually broken, let's say the buyer was just being petty and wanted to return it for whatever reason, now you have to open a return with Amazon. You can't lie, at least not consistently, to Amazon or Walmart, because if you open a lot of returns saying that things are broken when they're not, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to pull your Prime account or your Walmart, account or whatever it is. So you have to, if the buyer even is still being dishonest, unfortunately, you have to be honest to protect yourself and your accounts where you're purchasing items from. So let's say that the item is not broken and you need to ship it now back to the supplier, and you're going to get dinged another $5 to ship it back to them after you just got dinged $5 or $6 to have it shipped back to you. Now for the $20 item, really, you're only going to get, if you're lucky, maybe $10 back after dealing with all that hassle and bull crap and everything. You can either do that, which, at the end of the day, you get $10 back, in that example, worst case scenario, or you can just refund the buyer. If you refund the buyer, yes, it's a loss. No matter what, you're taking a loss. Unfortunately, it's one of those bad or worse situations. But sometimes it just makes more sense to return the buyer, or refund the buyer rather. Maybe on a $20 item, that example I just gave, it might make more sense still to do what I said as far as opening the return, and even if you get dinged on the shipping both ways, at least you get $10 back. That maybe makes sense, obviously. But if it's a smaller ticket item, let's say it's a $10 item. Let's say it's an item that it costs you $4 or $5, and then you drop shipped it and you sold it for 12 or 13, and after fees you made $3, which obviously if you made $3 and it only cost you $4, that's a 75% profit margin, so you did good there. But again, if somebody opens a return for that small ticket item, and then you got to deal with the return shipping back to you, and then you got to now also get return shipping back to Amazon, you might end up with $0, or might even end up like really in the negative once you factor in eBay's return label as well. So in that particular example, obviously you just want to go ahead and refund the buyer and be done with it. Doesn't make any sense to lose money or to put yourself through a headache to make literally $0 at the end of all of it. So that is my advice with returns. Just keep in mind what the situation is. Every case is different, but just keep in mind, number one, the dollar amount of the item. Number two, what the actual situation is. If the item is actually damaged, if there's pictures of it being damaged that you can then forward to the supplier, and already that you're gonna get, you're gonna get a free return back to the supplier, and if it's an item that's worth a little bit of money, $30, $50, it's worth your time to get at least some of that money back. But if it's a very small ticket item, $5, $10, once you factor in all that bull crap, it's probably not going to be worth it, to be honest with you. What else? Let me think. What else? So it's pretty much it. With returns, when an item is delivered back, so whether it's delivered back to you or if you are able to provide the buyer with a shipping label. So the other 50% of the time, seems like these days, if the eBay does not automatically approve the return, what's going to happen is you're going to get a return request, and it's going to ask you to approve the return request, and then once you approve it, it's going to ask you for a return address. So in that scenario, what you would do just simply is open then a return request on Amazon or Walmart, whatever it is. They're going to provide you with a prepaid FedEx or UPS shipping label usually. Then you're going to literally just take a snip of that label and then upload that label into your eBay dashboard, and eBay will provide that label exactly as you provided it to the buyer, and then the buyer will just ship it straight back to Amazon or Walmart. So that really is the perfect scenario. When it does happen that way, it's seamless. It doesn't cost you any money. If the item was legitimately damaged, then they ship it straight back to your supplier. You get refunded. You refund the buyer. Everything is just a complete reverse process from actually placing the dropship order. But whenever they do ship the item back and it is delivered, just make sure that you refund them in the appropriate amount of time, whether it's returned back to your address or it's returned back to the supplier's address. Once you get that notification that your return the buyer's return has been delivered, make sure that you refund them. I believe it's within 3 days, if I'm not mistaken, or 3 business days. Whatever the case may be, 3 days, 3 business days, make sure that you refund them within that allotted amount of time, because if you do not, even if you just honestly forget and you meant to do it, but you forgot to do it, you got distracted, whatever the case is, if eBay has to automatically issue the refund or force the refund on your behalf because you didn't, again, that will be labeled as a defective transaction, and that will go against your metrics on your seller account. So keep all these things in mind, guys. There is actually some more stuff to cover with returns, some other things you can do to try to mitigate returns, that you can do to try to make the process a little bit more seamless. It's also a big part of it, to be honest with you, is communication with the buyer. So if a buyer is messaging you and they're having problems, a lot of times if you're attentive to your buyers and you're providing good quality customer service, which is what you need to be doing, there's no debates about that, a lot of times you can resolve something with the buyer before they even open a return request. A buyer receives an item and it has like a little damage on it, but it's not like destroyed, and they say, hey, there's this little issue with it, whatever it may be. Again, if you have a good communication and you're providing good service to your buyers, perhaps you can work something out like, hey man, I see that, I apologize, would you consider a $5 refund, or would you consider a $10 or whatever it is, or 10% or 20% or whatever, again, depending on the situation and the product. Things like that are always possible. I mean, you obviously you're in business. You're selling on eBay. Yes, you're selling on a platform, but ultimately it's your business that you're running. So treat it like a business. Treat your customers like people, which they are, and then people that are just looking to go out and purchase things with their hard-earned money, the way you and I are, and make sure you just treat them well. And again, you're gonna get some dicks, so you're gonna get some people that are just trying to basically get something for nothing. Unfortunately, that happens, and it is prevalent on these platforms. You got these little petty buggers. I don't know where they come from, but they just want to just suck, $10 and $20 out of, seems like, every seller on eBay. And a lot of times they get away with it, or at least for a good while, until eBay starts to pick up on a trend, and then they shut it down, and then usually just open up another buyer account right away. But not to get off topic again and get all negative about the situation, but just be aware. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of what's actually going on. Everything is in your control. You can play every situation to the best of your ability. Just always try to provide the buyer with the best possible service that you can. Also protecting yourself. Don't let yourself be taken advantage of. But also, make sure that you're doing things in a way that is going to do right by yourself. Obviously, from a financial standpoint, you're doing right by yourself. Also, regarding staying on good terms with your suppliers, whoever they are, not opening up. If a buyer, again, opens up a return for whatever reason, says an item is defective because they want to ship it back to you for free, and then you receive it back and the item is really not defective. At that point, unfortunately, you have to step up and you have to say, well, if it's not damaged at all, which I've had that happen a few times, a buyer will say something's damaged, they ship it back, it's literally like brand new, unopened. Maybe they just changed their mind, buyer's remorse. Usually what I'll do, unless it's a very small ticket item, I'll just hang on to the item, and when it resells again, I'll just ship it out directly. I won't rebuy it, but you can't receive the item back if it's in perfect condition, unfortunately, and then open a return on Amazon and basically continue the trend of being a petty asshole, because ultimately what's going to happen is you being a drop shipper, buying quite a bit and selling quite a bit, if you do that every time, it's going to get to a point where Amazon's going to say, hey, this person continues to open returns claiming the items are damaged, but we receive them back and they're not damaged. So you're going to have to absorb things like that to a certain degree, is what I'm trying to say. Ultimately, for the bigger picture, which is you don't want to burn yourself and get your Amazon Prime account pulled from you in that example, because then what are you going to do? You got to now look for other products if you already had a bunch of products listed from Amazon. And the truth, or the same principle is true rather for any supplier you work with. So a few different things to consider, guys. If you have any questions or comments, definitely drop them below. Would love to engage with you guys and open a discussion. And other than that, keep on hustling, keep on pushing forward, and have a great day. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.